Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing great and thank you for stopping by. Thanks for subscribing, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. So in today's video we are going to be learning how to make a corset. Okay, a corset with yoke. I'm going to be teaching us how to make a corset with yoke, and right here I have a pattern paper. For you to cut a corset, you will need a pattern paper. Okay, so I have marked all the necessary marks here. This line here is the chest line, while this here is the bust line. Okay, this here is the under bust line, and here is the waist line. Okay, this is the waist line, this is the under bust, this is the bust line and the chest line. Okay, and from here, from your center to the to this place is the shoulder to shoulder measurement. Okay, so what I will do now is to insert the to input the nipple to nipple measurement. So the nipple to nipple measurement I'll be working with is 8 inches, and on fold is going to be 4 inches. So I'm not going to be adding half an inch seam allowance here since I'm working with the pattern paper. Once I'm cutting it on the fabric, I'll add the half an inch there. So if I want to add half an inch here, I'll just mark 4.5 for the nipple to nipple measurement, but I'm just going to mark 4 inches for the nipple to nipple measurement. Yes, I have marked the nipple to nipple measurement of 4 inches. Now the next thing we are going to do is to determine the neck. You know, we are making a corset and we need to determine the neck, that is how low or high you want your corset to be. So what I'm going to do now is there are 3 ways to determine the neck of your corset. The first one is to measure the distance you have from your bust point to your under bust point. Okay, and mine is 3 inches. Okay, when I was taking this measurement, the bust point I used was 11.5. Okay, but I added half an inch to it because I'm going to be joining the shoulder by half an inch, and once I do that it will go back to 10.5. so that is why I have 2.5 here, but the distance is 3 inches. Okay, just mark the distance you have between your bust point, your bust line and your under bust line. Okay, and whatever you have there, you measure it upward from your bust line. You measure it upward like so, and then you mark it here. Okay, that is the first method to determine the neck of your corset. Another method is from your chest line, just go up by 1 inch or 1.5 or 2 inches, depends on what you want. Okay, you can just go up by 2 inches from your chest line, you can just go up by 1 inches from your chest line. Okay, so it totally depends on you on how high you want your corset to be or how low you want it to be, or better still, just come up from your shoulder line here and mark the neck you want. If it is 6 inches you want, mark it. If it is 7 inches you want, mark it there. If it is 5 inches you want, mark it. If it is 6, if it is 7, just mark it there. Okay, so the neck I'll be using is 7.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark the 7.5 inches with another colored pencil. Okay, so that we don't get confused by the time I'm taking all of the marks together. So guys, as you can see, I have marked this with another colored pencil so that we don't get confused. So this right here is the neck of my corset. So what I will do now is to extend this nipple to nipple measurement line. Okay, I need to extend it back to where I'm going to have the neck. Okay, and the remaining part here is going to be for the yoke. Okay, so I have extended the line. So the next thing for me to do now is to take our dart intake. So on both sides of the under bust line, I'm going to be taking 1 inch on both sides of the under bust line. Okay, and on the waistline as well, I'm also going to be taking 1 inch on both sides. You can do 3/4 of an inch So I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch. At the neck area here, I'm also going to be taking 1 inch on both sides. So after doing all of that, I'm going to connect all of the points together. So when you're connecting the point, from the bust point here, just come down by 1/2 inch, okay? Then you also go up by 1/2 inch, so as to avoid having sharp shape or pointed edge around here. So I'm going to connect the lines together. So from here to here now, just use your straight ruler. I'm going to use my straight ruler here. Okay, and from here to here, you're going to use your curved ruler. So from here to here is your straight ruler. I'm going to use my straight ruler here as well. Okay, and from here to here, I'm going to use my curved ruler. I hope we understand what I am doing. You can see this is taking shape. So the next thing to do now is to determine the curve we need around here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, because you're making a corset, okay, you need to mark 1/2 inch downward. You need to mark 1/2 inch inward. You know it's a corset, and at the middle side you need 1/2 inch here. I'm going to be marking it, and I'll stop around the bust point. Okay, you need 1/2 inch here. You're going to mark the 1/2 inch down to the bust point here, to the bust line. Okay, so I'm going to mark it for us since we are doing a corset, and you need 1/2 inch here. So can you see the 1/2 inch? This is the 1/2 inch. So I'll use my colored marker so that we can see it, so that it's bold enough. Okay. So can you see now? The next thing I'm going to do now is to determine the center line of, you know, this is the chest line and this is the bust line. So I'm just going to determine the center, and I have 2.5 here, which means the center is 1.25. Okay, so this is the center. 2.5 is 1.25. This is it here, and from there now I'm going to take the curve. I'll just place the curve ruler like this, and then I'm going to curve the shape out. Okay, just watch what I'm doing, you will get it. So let me use the colored pencil first for us to see. So when you are doing this, make sure you use a pencil so that in case you make any mistake, you can easily adjust, you can easily correct your mistake. Okay, so as you can see, I have used the colored pencil to do the mark, so I'll just use my marker now to highlight it for us to see. Okay, so you can see, as you can see now, so this is what it should look like by the time you take the curve. This is what it should look like. Okay, and then you blend this back inward like this. Make sure to blend it back in like so. You can see how I bend mine. So the next thing is to move to this side. Now to determine the curve you will need on this side. So you know the distance between the bust line and the under bust line is 3 inches. Okay, so what I'm supposed to mark here is 3 inches, but because the bust is fuller on this side, So I'm going to be adding 1 inch to the 3 inches to make it 4 inches. I hope you understand. The distance between your bust line and your under bust line plus 1 inch is what you are going to mark here. That's what you're going to use to determine the bust, the cup on this side. So I'm going to mark that 1 inch on this bust line. Okay, so I'm going to mark the 4 inches on this bust line. This is the 4 inches here. You can see it here. And then I'm going to extend it to the chest line here. I'm going to extend it here. So as you can see, I've extended the 1 inch here. So the next thing also is to curve, is to make the curve. And I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'll take the curve from here. You can see how I'm placing the curve ruler. So from there now, I'll take the curve. So you can see the curve is taking shape. Okay, the curve is taking shape. So this is what it's going to look like. Just look at it. This is what the cup is going to look like. So the next thing to do now is to determine the neck, to know if you want your neck straight as it is now, you can leave it as it is. But if you want a sweetheart neck, what I will just do is to come down 1/2 inch from here. So from here now, I'll come down by 1/2 inch. This is the 1/2 inch here, you can see. And then I'm going to curve this in. You can use your curve ruler or just use your straight hand, your free hand. Okay, this is a slight curve. As you can see, just a slight curve here. And here too, I'll also come down by 1/2 inch here as well. So this is the 1/2 inch here as well. And then I'll also curve this side too. I'll curve it down slightly. So you can see how it looks like. The next thing is to take the horizontal measurement. Once I'm done, I'll move to the yoke area. So the quarter of the chest is 10 inches. And note, whatever you take away from here, you need to add it back to your chest line, to your bust line. Okay, whatever you take off here, you add it back here. So now I'm going to be marking the horizontal measurement, and what I took out here altogether is 1 inch. The quarter of the bust is 10 plus the 1 inch the quarter of the bust is 10 plus the 1 inch I took away from here. That's 11 inches. And then I'll add 1.5 inch for side seam allowance. Like I said, once you are cutting this out, you need to add 1/2 inch back here on this side so as to use it to join the cups together. So on the under bust, the quarter of the under bust is 8 3/4. Okay, plus 2 inches that I took off here, that's 10 3/4. So I'm going to mark 10 3/4 here. Then you will need 1.5 for side seam allowance. And the waist, the quarter of the waist is 9 1/4. The quarter of the waist is 9 1/4, and I'm going to mark 9 1/4 plus the 2 inches I took plus 1.5 I took off here. That's 10 3/4. So I'm going to mark 10 3/4 here plus 1.5 for side seam allowance. So this is what I have, and I'm going to mark all the points together. So I'm done with the side seam. Okay, so now I'm going to move to the yoke area before I cut out the cups. Okay, so for the yoke area, I'm going to take the shoulder slope. So as you can see, I've done the shoulder slope. I've also done the armhole curve, okay, which I took half an inch inward because this is the front, and then I curve it back in. Now I also extended, and once you've done that, you need to extend this line you have here. And so the next thing I'll do now is to curve this back in like this. Remember, I curve this, just curve it inside the arm area. You can see what I have now. I've just curved it back in here. You can see this is what I have. So for the neck, you can determine what you want for the neck. I want the wideness of this to be 3 inches and the depth to be 3.5. So this is 3 inches here, this is 3 inches mark here, and this is 3.5. This is 3.5 here. Okay, so guys, I'm done for the front. So what I'll do now is to cut out the cup. Okay, and when you are cutting the yoke, make sure that when you want to cut it, when you want to cut the yoke, you need to add half an inch for joining. You need to add it, and also on top of here too, you need to add your half an inch for joining, and also all around the cup you need to add half an inch all around the cup. So I'll go ahead and cut out the yoke. So I'm not cutting directly on the neck because I want it to have seam allowance for joining. Okay, so right here now is our yoke. So this is the yoke. I'm going to use this as the yoke. So make sure you know this is for the right, this is for the left, and this is for the right. Of course, the cups are different from each other. Okay, so the same way you cut this out, so note this side here is going to be on fold. Okay, this is going to be on fold when you are cutting it. All right guys, so this is the back, and right here is the zipper allowance. Don't mind me, I extended the line here, but ignore the line I extended here. But right here is the zipper allowance. Okay, and from the shoulder to the chest line, the bust line, let me also mark it out. This is the chest line, this is the bust line, this is the under bust line, and this is the waist line. Okay, I hope you understand. Chest line, bust line, under bust, and then waist line. And here is the zipper allowance. So the next thing I will do is to take the that measurement of 4 inches. Okay, I'm going to mark 4 inches here, and then once I'm done marking, I will rule it out. And right here, remember that I marked 7.5 for the back, for the front neck. I'm also going to mark the 7.5 for the back neck as well. You can see it here. This is why I used another color. So what I will do now is to take the nipple to nipple measurements at the back. So I have ruled the nipple to nipple measurements. So what is left is to take half an inch on both sides of the under bust and the waistline. So now I'm going to determine the new neckline. So remember I used 7.5 for the front neck. Okay, and because this is the back, you want to have a lower you want your yoke to be lower at the back. So from this 7.5, I connected to the bust line. Okay, if you want yours to be lower than this, you can connect lower. If you want yours to stop at the chest line, you can just take the rule and stop at the chest line. It depends on what you want. Okay, so I'll just go up by half an inch a little. I don't want it to be too high, I don't want it to be too low, so I'm readjusting it to half an inch. Okay, so this is going to be the new neckline. Okay, so I don't want it to be too low, so that was why I went up by half an inch again. So this is where I'll be cutting from. I hope you understand everything I have explained here. So you are also going to be cutting the dart. You'll be cutting it off. Okay, you'll be cutting the dart off. So, and the next thing I will do is now to connect. Remember that I use 3 inches for the front neck, for the wideness of the front neck. So the same thing I'll be doing here, and then I'll connect back to this place. Okay, your yoke is not going to extend to the zipper allowance. Okay, it's not going to extend to the zipper allowance, so I'll just extend this side like so, since here is the zipper allowance. So this is the zipper allowance and this is the yoke. Okay, so here is where I'll be cutting off. So for the back, you don't really need any curve at the back, just like we did at the front. You don't need any curve at the back. So just come down here and then just take the armhole curve like so. Okay, you don't need to take in half an inch. You don't need to take half an inch inward. So the next thing I'll do now is to insert the horizontal measurement, and once I'm done, I'm going to cut it off. So the next thing is to remove the zipper bulge. You know, we usually take half an inch away at the waist just to avoid zipper bulge. So this is half an inch, and I'll just connect it back to where I have the chest line there. Okay, I'm just using the curved part so that it can blend well to the back. Okay, so remember, whatever you take out of here, return it back to your side seam allowance. So I'm going to take the horizontal measurement, and that you also took off here, remember to also add it back to the sides. So I've taken the horizontal measurement for the back and I'm going to cut it off. Remember, when I was cutting the front yoke, I did not cut exactly on the mark. So I'll also do the same thing here. I'm not going to cut exactly on that mark. Okay, so the same thing for here as well. I'm not going to cut exactly on the mark as well. So I'll also stop around here. Okay, so I'm going to cut off the zipper bulge. So can you see what it looks like? So I'm going to cut off the yoke. And remember, when you are cutting the yoke, remember to add your half an inch. Remember to add your half an inch seam allowance to the yoke area.
Guys, the quarter of an inch I left at the yoke for the back is just for me to stitch back the yoke with each other. But you can add it when you are cutting your yoke. When you are using the pattern to cut the yoke on the fabric, you can add it there.
So guys, I'm done cutting this out. So when you are cutting this, make sure to add half an inch seam allowance below here. This as well, you're also going to add half an inch or quarter of an inch seam allowance above here for joining back the yoke to the bodies. I hope you understand. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. So I'm done cutting this out, and this is what the back looks like. This is what the backs look like. Thank you for watching this video to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be doing the sewing part so that you will see everything I did. Okay, remember that nobody is perfect. With constant practice, you will eventually get there. Okay, no worries for watching this video to the end, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, like and share this video. Bye.